The champagne glass was still cold in my hand when my niece's mentor turned to me and said, "You don't belong here." As I smiled, I watched her scan the room like she owned the guest list and the people on it. While the chandelier light flickered across her borrowed diamonds, it caught the plaque she hadn't bothered reading. The same one bearing my name. Quiet, permanent, and paid in full. That's when the host raised his glass and thanked me for funding the entire night. So I clinked mine gently, next to the woman who mistook status for power. All right, before we dive into this crazy story, do me a favor. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. The chandelier light caught every inch of polished glass in the ballroom, scattering it across silk gowns and diamond earrings like a spray of frozen rain. Westport Heritage Ball, an evening that smelled of money, champagne, and quiet judgment. Dana Ridgely stood just inside the doors, one gloved hand on her niece's arm, the other wrapped around her clutch. Ava looked nervous. Her soft green dress didn't glitter the way others did. "Maybe we shouldn't have come," she whispered. Dana's eyes tracked the slow swirl of couples already drifting toward the auction tables. "We have every reason to be here," she said. Her voice was calm, measured, like the tide before a storm. Then came her. Camilla Ashford glided toward them, pearls swinging, smile glossy and predatory. The kind of woman who turned small talk into a weapon. Her tone dripped with syrup as she air-kissed the guests nearby, then stopped, right in front of Dana. "Well," Camilla said, pausing long enough for nearby heads to turn. "Didn't expect to see you here?" She tilted her champagne glass just slightly. "You don't belong." The words dropped between them like a crystal breaking. For a moment, even the string quartet seemed to falter. Guests who had been mid-laugh went quiet. Ava's face flushed red. She tugged Dana's sleeve. "Let's go." But Dana didn't move. Her grip tightened around Ava's hand, steady and unyielding. She looked at Camilla. Not up, not down, just directly. And smiled with a softness that cut sharper than anything she could have said aloud. "No," Dana murmured. "Not tonight." A waiter passed with flutes of champagne, and Dana took one without breaking eye contact. The gesture was small, but carried the authority of someone who'd seen 100 rooms like this and outlasted them all. Camilla blinked, the faintest flicker of confusion in her expression. Across the room, Leo Park caught Dana's eye. The familiar warmth in his gaze steadied her. He lifted his glass in a subtle toast, unnoticed by most, but perfectly timed. Dana clinked her flute against Ava's. "Smile," she whispered. "Let her talk. She'll choke on it later." Camilla turned away with a brittle laugh, already pretending the exchange hadn't shaken her. But the guests who had witnessed it whispered behind manicured hands. One woman near the punch table murmured, "Did you see how calm she was?" Another, "Who is she, anyway?" Dana ignored them. She walked deeper into the ballroom, the satin of her gown brushing the marble like a quiet signature. The evening unfolded in its usual pretentious rhythm, auctions, speeches, polite applause, but Dana barely heard them. Her mind ticked quietly behind her stillness. Every chandelier shimmered with names she'd seen on her donation receipts. Every tablecloth, caterer, and floral display had passed through a ledger she'd personally approved. It was all hers, though no one in this room knew it. Ava leaned close. "She embarrassed us in front of everyone." Dana's lips curved faintly. "Then let everyone remember it," she said. "Reputation only works if it's earned." They stood by the Lakeview windows as a photographer snapped pictures of the so-called elite. Dana's reflection stared back at her in the glass, composed, unreadable. The same face that had negotiated 7-figure deals while everyone assumed she'd retired quietly somewhere. She sipped her drink, watching Camilla flit between tables, laughing too loudly, checking whether anyone was still looking. The brittle perfection of her act was already showing cracks. Leo approached quietly, holding a folded program. "You handled that like a saint," he murmured. Dana gave a small, humorless smile. "Saints don't have spreadsheets." He chuckled softly, leaning closer. "If she only knew." "Let's keep it that way," Dana replied. Her gaze flicked to Camilla. "For now." As the orchestra swelled into its next piece, Dana set her glass down, the stem ringing faintly against the marble. The sound drew Camilla's eyes again, briefly, as if she couldn't help checking that Dana was still there. Still unbothered. Still impossible to erase. When Dana turned toward the terrace doors, Ava followed, the two of them moving together like shadows leaving the spotlight. Outside, the air smelled of lilacs and salt water drifting from the sound. "Are we really staying?" Ava asked softly. Dana's tone was calm, almost tender. "We're not just staying." Her gaze lifted to the glittering mansion windows behind them. "We're taking notes." Inside, Camilla raised her glass again, trying too hard, laughing too loud. She didn't notice Leo watching her from across the room. And she definitely didn't notice that the quiet woman she'd just dismissed owned every check that made this night possible. The applause rose like a polite tide, breaking softly against the stage. Dana sat near the back of the Westport Heritage Ball, the room glowing with gold, uplighting, and inflated egos. Camilla Ashford stood at the podium now, hand delicately resting on the microphone, smile sharpened for the cameras. "None of this," Camilla said, pausing dramatically, "would be possible without our dedicated patrons and generous donors who keep the arts alive in Westport." The crowd responded on cue, clapping, nodding, murmuring their approval. Dana didn't move. Her hands remained folded in her lap, fingers still. The word donor hung in the air like a secret only she knew. She remembered that first check. A simple slip of paper, hand-signed in her quiet kitchen a year ago. 6 figures, no fanfare, no photo op. Leo had texted her minutes later. "Without you, this place shuts down." She'd told him to keep her name off everything. No plaques, no programs, no special thanks. Just results. That was always her language, numbers and outcomes, not applause. From her seat now, she could see Leo near the edge of the stage, face carefully neutral as Camilla carried on about her vision, her leadership, her fight for the arts community. Dana caught his eye briefly. He gave the slightest shake of his head, as if to say, "Not here, not now." Camilla's earrings flashed as she turned to gesture at the caterers circulating the room. "Tonight's menu is inspired by coastal Connecticut flavors," she announced, "sourced by my dear partners at LaSalle Catering." Dana's lips curved. Her chef, her vendor. She could still remember that first tasting in a small Soho kitchen years ago, back when LaSalle had been nothing more than a startup with a dream. Dana had invested quietly, anonymously, just as she had with this arts fund. Camilla didn't know that every scallop and garnish on her guests' plates carried Dana's silent signature. Ava leaned in, her voice barely a whisper. "She's taking credit for everything." Dana didn't look away from the stage. "Let her." Camilla began introducing a slideshow, a looping montage of restoration projects, art classes, community events. Dana recognized each photo. She had paid for most of them. The roof repair, the scholarships, even the children's music program Camilla was now using to pull at donors' heartstrings. "Together," Camilla declared, "we rebuilt this foundation from the ground up." Dana's breath left her in a slow exhale. She felt no anger, only a quiet amusement that tasted faintly of satisfaction. The truth had its own clock, and it was never late. Leo stepped up to hand Camilla the next envelope of acknowledgments. As their fingers brushed, his glance flicked toward Dana, subtle, apologetic. She tilted her chin slightly in reply. "Keep going." Camilla cleared her throat. We'd also like to extend special gratitude to our anonymous angel donor, who, though unnamed, embodies the spirit of Westport generosity. That line drew fresh applause, louder this time. Dana watched the audience clap for her, oblivious to it. Camilla beamed as if she'd personally written the check. Across the room, a photographer caught the perfect shot. Camilla, framed in gold light, applause frozen mid-motion, gratitude painted across her face like a mask. Dana smiled faintly. Masks, she knew, always slipped in heat. When the dinner service began, servers moved like a choreographed ballet. Silver trays gleamed, soft music threaded through the air. Dana barely touched her plate. Her gaze roamed, taking inventory. The committee members, the donors, the influencers pretending to be philanthropists. She was building a map in her mind, a quiet network of favors and facades. Ava picked at her salad, frowning. "You're really okay with this?" Dana's eyes never left the stage. "It's not about being okay. It's about being observant." Observant? Everything they show you is performance. I'm watching for what they hide. When the live auction began, Camilla was radiant under the spotlight, coaxing bids from the crowd. "A private yacht evening for 12, she called out, gesturing to the screen showing glossy images of the harbor. Dana had seen those yachts before, half of them mortgaged, the other half leased. Westport wealth was often built on air and borrowed time. "Sold for 25,000, Camilla trilled, triumphant. The orchestra resumed, champagne flowed again. And still, Dana sat unmoving, hands steady, expression serene. Leo approached after the speeches, pretending to collect envelopes. "She's burning bright tonight," he murmured under his breath. "They always do," Dana said, "right before they run out of fuel." He hesitated. "You sure you don't want the credit this time?" "I have all the credit I need." She smiled faintly. "It's in her balance sheets." Camilla's laughter rose from across the room, sparkling but hollow. She was surrounded by admirers, people praising her leadership. Dana watched, calm and silent, like someone watching the last flickers of a candle that didn't know it was about to die out. A faint vibration in her clutch drew her attention. A new text from Leo. "Camilla just asked the web designer to remove donor transparency from the site. Says it'll streamline the look." Dana's reflection in her glass hardened, her smile cooling into calculation. "Streamline the look," she whispered, the phrase tasting of arrogance and opportunity. She placed her napkin neatly beside her plate and rose, the chair sliding back with a quiet scrape. Ava blinked. "Where are you going?" Dana's tone was smooth as silk. "To see what else she's trying to hide." The morning after the Heritage Ball dawned cold and overbright, the kind of light that made everything look sharper than it should. Dana sat in the sunroom of her lakefront home, a cup of coffee steaming beside her tablet. The silence of the house was precise. No clocks ticking, no chatter, just the slow hum of her espresso machine cooling. Ava padded in, barefoot, hair messy, clutching her phone. "Someone posted photos," she said quietly. "Camilla tagged half the town." Dana didn't need to ask where. She took the phone and scrolled. The images were predictably perfect. Camilla in sequins and satin, chin lifted, glass raised, captions dripping with self-congratulation. What an incredible night, celebrating community and creativity. But Dana paused on the third photo. Camilla was laughing in a cluster of women, and there, barely visible in the reflection of a mirror behind her, was Ava, half-turned, the shadow of unease still on her face. The caption below the image read, "We love seeing everyone dressed up, some more than others." A winking emoji. Dana's jaw tightened. "She mocked your dress." Ava shrugged, trying to laugh it off. "It's fine. She probably didn't even mean it like that." "Oh, she meant it exactly like that," Dana said softly. Women like her don't make accidents. They make impressions. She set the phone down. Her calm was practiced. Smooth surface, deep current. She leaned back, watching the light refract through the window pane. Something glittered faintly in the photo on her tablet screen. Camilla's wrist. A bracelet. Rose gold, delicately engraved. Distinctive. Dana zoomed in. That bracelet wasn't from Cartier or Tiffany's. It was from a luxury resale site, one Dana had used herself to offload an unwanted anniversary gift years ago. She remembered the listing. Like new, minor clasp wear. A limited edition piece that retailed for nearly $10,000 when new, but a used one meant something else. Liquidity trouble. Dana's lips parted in a slow, knowing smile. She reached for her laptop and opened a familiar interface, her title search software, the same tool she'd used for years to vet investment properties. In a few keystrokes, she pulled up Ashford, Grant, and Camilla, their home on Harbor Crest Lane. Mortgage history, purchase records, liens. The file loaded, and Dana's brows lifted. Multiple forbearance notices, deferred payments, a line of credit against the property renewed twice in the last year. She whispered it out loud, tasting the truth like a rare wine. They're leveraged to hell. Her phone buzzed. Gwen Hastings, her sharp-tongued real estate partner and the only person who knew how much Dana actually owned. "Morning," Gwen said when Dana picked up. "You're not going to believe this, but one of my contacts at the bank flagged a property review for the Ashford's mortgage. Looks like they're stretched thin. She's probably funding those galas with borrowed money." Dana swirled her coffee idly. "That would explain the bracelet." "What bracelet?" "The one she can't afford." Gwen laughed dryly. "You thinking of making a move?" Dana's eyes returned to the glowing screen. Numbers, balances, signatures. "Not yet. You don't patch cracks in glass when you need to see how far they run. So we wait?" "We let them widen." The silence that followed was comfortable, taut with understanding. When she hung up, Dana rose and crossed to the window overlooking the lake. A light breeze rippled across the surface, scattering reflections of the autumn sky. The world outside was still and composed, but beneath it, the deep, slow churn of inevitability. Ava came to stand beside her. "You're doing that thing again," she said softly. "What thing?" "Where you look like you're planning something but won't tell me what." Dana smiled faintly, the kind of smile that had made boardrooms nervous. "I'm just remembering something Leo once told me. People reveal the most when they think they're untouchable." Ava frowned. "And Camilla thinks she's untouchable?" Dana looked out at the water, voice barely above a whisper. "She's about to learn otherwise." That evening, as the lake darkened to slate and the houses across the water blinked with warm light, Dana opened her laptop again. The Ashford file remained on screen, her cursor hovering over the mortgage details. She saved the record quietly, storing it alongside her growing collection of evidence, digital breadcrumbs leading to a reckoning that would arrive on its own schedule. She didn't need to ruin Camilla overnight. The truth was patient. So was she. The storm didn't start with thunder. It started with the click of a mouse. Dana sat at her desk that afternoon, the November light slanting and pale through the tall windows of her home office. Her screens glowed with spreadsheets, contracts, and the Westport Arts Fund portal she logged into weekly, always quietly, always alone. She liked seeing her numbers lined up neatly, the digital equivalent of order. But today, the order was gone. The donor page loaded, an elegant grid of names beneath the heading Founding Patrons. She scrolled once, twice, then a third time. Her name wasn't there. Her cursor hovered, motionless. She refreshed the page. Still gone. Every other donor remained. Ashford, Camilla, and Grant. Coleman, Judith, Westport Investment Partners. But Ridgely, The quiet check that had kept the lights on was missing. Dana leaned back, her face unreadable. Then, with slow precision, she picked up her phone and typed, "Dana, fix it. Or should I?" The reply came in less than a minute. "Leo, fix what?" "Dana, your donor list. It seems to have misplaced 6 figures." She watched the typing dots appear, disappear, then appear again. Finally, "Leo." "Jesus, Dana, I didn't touch that." "Dana." Then someone did. 2 minutes later, her phone rang. She answered before the first buzz ended. "Dana, listen," Leo said, voice low and tight. "I checked the edit log. It was Camilla. Yesterday morning. She must have logged in with the admin code. She has limited privileges, but enough to hide names. I had no idea." Dana swiveled her chair toward the lake view, the reflection of her screen flickering across her glasses. "So she erased me." "Temporarily," Leo said quickly. "I can put you back up. But, if I do, she'll notice." "Good," Dana said, tone level. "Let her." There was a pause, then a soft exhale from Leo. "You're too calm about this." Dana smiled faintly. "Calm isn't the opposite of angry, Leo. It's what anger looks like when it graduates." When she hung up, she reopened the donor log and took screenshots of every change, every timestamp. Each image she printed on heavy cream paper, the kind that didn't fade easily. She slipped them into a slim leather folder, labeling it in tidy block letters, "Ashford, Edits." At the bottom of the last printout was a recent update to the committee calendar. Dana frowned, eyes narrowing as she read the highlighted note, "Ridgely, Dana, removed from attendance list for next planning meeting." She clicked Details. A comment box popped up. Written by user C. Ashford. "Streamlining participation to those actively engaged." Dana's jaw flexed once. She hit print. When Ava came home from work that evening, she found her aunt still at the desk, papers neatly stacked, printer humming in its slow mechanical rhythm. Ava frowned. Are you printing emails?" "Evidence," Dana said simply. "Always keep receipts." Ava moved closer, scanning one of the pages. "She uninvited you? After everything you've done for that place?" Dana nodded, sliding the last printed sheet into its folder. "And she deleted my name, which is fine." "Fine?" Ava repeated. "That's not fine, Aunt Dana. That's insane." Dana rose, stretching, calm as the lake outside. "She thinks erasing someone from a list makes them disappear, but I've owned properties that didn't even exist on a map yet. Visibility is overrated." Ava sank into the armchair across from her. "You're scaring me a little with how calm you are." Dana smiled gently. "Then you're starting to understand the difference between reaction and response." Ava hesitated, unsure what to say. Dana's composure wasn't detachment. It was architecture. She was already building something beneath it. As the night deepened, Dana sat once more before her monitor. She opened the Arts Fund site one last time, scrolling through the glossy names on the public list. Camilla's sat near the top, highlighted gold as Chair of Community Initiatives. Dana clicked View Source, a small habit from her old tech-heavy years in property analytics, and read the metadata. Each edit was marked with a user ID and timestamp. She highlighted Camilla's code and copied it into a new document labeled Evidence 1. Somewhere across town, Camilla was likely drinking her post-event Sauvignon Blanc, basking in her latest social win, unaware that every keystroke she'd made had already been recorded. Forever. The boardroom smelled faintly of citrus polish and quiet panic. Westport Arts Foundation, Monday morning, 9:00 a.m. sharp. The winter light spilled through the high arched windows, washing over the lacquered table and the faces gathered around it. The old guard of Westport philanthropy, each one pretending not to check their phones. At the far end of the table, Leo shifted in his seat. He'd called the emergency board meeting at dawn, per Dana's instruction. Camilla, of course, had arrived last, her heels clicking like punctuation marks, her smile weaponized. She was in her element here, the performance space without the stage lights, until she saw her. Dana Ridgely sat at the head of the table, serene in a charcoal suit, leather folder neatly placed before her. No introduction, no fanfare, just presence. Quiet, unshakable, undeniable. Camilla stopped mid-stride. "I'm sorry," she said with an airy laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I think there's been some sort of, mix-up. This meeting's for board members only." Leo looked down at his notes, saying nothing. Dana folded her hands. "I'm aware." Camilla blinked. "Then why are you—" Dana opened the folder and slid a single page forward, the motion unhurried but surgical. Clause 14. Donation Agreement. Silent seats are granted to any benefactor whose contribution exceeds a set threshold. You remember the number? "I'm sure." The room went still. Someone cleared their throat. Another shuffled papers without purpose. Camilla's eyes darted toward the foundation president at the center of the table, a silver-haired man named Burton Chase, who was suddenly fascinated by his coffee. "I wasn't aware we had any silent seats active," Camilla said, voice tighter now. "You weren't," Dana said mildly. "But the legal department was." She waited a beat, then slid the rest of the folder's contents across the table, each page pristine, printed on that same cream paper. The top sheet bore a header: Administrative Log, Westport Arts Fund Donor Portal. Burton adjusted his glasses and read the first few lines. The time-stamped edits glowed in the room's quiet. User: C. Ashford. Action: remove donor name from public list. Action: modify event participation roster. Camilla's color drained. Those edits were temporary. I was cleaning up the layout, streamlining the site." Leo finally spoke, voice steady, formal. "Those temporary edits included removing a donor whose contribution legally guarantees her a seat on this board." Burton looked up. "Camilla, is that accurate?" Camilla's laugh was brittle, misplaced. "Honestly, this is being blown out of proportion. The site needed reformatting. Our communications intern—" Dana interrupted softly. "Do interns use your personal login?" The question landed like a gavel. Camilla's mouth opened, then closed again. Across the table, Grant Ashford sat silent, his jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the wood grain in front of him. Dana watched him a moment longer than necessary, not out of pity, but calculation. He knew. Leo leaned forward, steepling his fingers. "We have a serious integrity issue," he said to Burton, to everyone. "If donor records can be altered without oversight, then the Foundation's transparency claims are meaningless. This isn't optics. It's ethics." Burton nodded slowly. "I'll need to review the internal access logs and inform the auditors." Camilla's composure cracked, her smile replaced by urgency. "You can't possibly think I meant harm. I am this foundation. Every event, every fundraiser—" "You were," Dana said. Camilla turned sharply toward her. "Excuse me?" Dana stood, gathering her papers with measured grace. "You said last night that you wanted to streamline participation. I agree. We should only keep those actively engaged." The echo of Camilla's own words hung in the air. A couple of members glanced at one another, and someone near the end of the table suppressed a knowing smirk. Dana met Leo's eye briefly, then looked to Burton. "I don't believe this requires hostility. It's not revenge. It's review." Camilla's voice broke on the edge of a laugh. "You can't just walk in here and—" But Dana already had. The meeting dissolved slowly into murmurs. Burton announced an immediate audit of digital operations, and Leo began collecting statements. Camilla's protests grew softer, less confident, as board members avoided her gaze. When the room finally emptied, Dana remained where she was, fingertips resting lightly on the table's polished edge. Camilla lingered at the doorway, her perfect posture faltering just slightly. "I don't know what you think you're doing," she said under her breath. Dana turned her head, her expression the picture of calm. "Correcting an oversight." Camilla's voice dropped lower, venom threading through the whisper. "You'll regret embarrassing me." Dana smiled, not with humor, but with precision. "No, Camilla. You'll regret thinking I wouldn't notice." As she gathered her folder, Leo approached quietly, voice pitched for her alone. "That was surgical." Dana slid the folder under her arm. "Documentation always is." They stepped out into the crisp morning air. The glass facade of the Arts Center reflected their figures side by side, one calm, one still processing the scale of what had just shifted. By Thursday morning, Westport's gossip mill had shifted into overdrive, though no one would call it gossip out loud. In a town like this, reputation traveled in polite whispers and group texts disguised as community updates. Camilla Ashford had not been seen since the board meeting. Not at Pilates, not at the Marina Cafe, not even on her usual mid-morning dog walk through Harbor Crest Lane. But her name was everywhere, usually in the same breath as audit, integrity, and Dana Ridgely. Dana didn't read the chatter. She didn't need to. The silence that followed her lately spoke louder than rumor. That morning, she opened her front door to find a small bouquet of tulips wrapped in brown paper, tied with a note. "From the old art students. Saw the video. Thank you." Dana frowned slightly, curiosity tugging at her. She opened her laptop and found what they meant. Someone, probably one of the junior members in the room, had discreetly recorded the end of the board meeting. The clip showed Camilla's sputtering denials and Dana's calm dismantling of them. The video was barely 30 seconds long, but it had already traveled through town like pollen in the wind. She read the comments once, then closed the tab. She didn't need to bask in validation. The truth was already doing its work. Her inbox pinged again. This time, a message from an address she didn't recognize. Subject: "Finally someone said it." "We've always known what she is. You just gave the rest of them permission to see it." No signature, no flourish, just honesty, the kind that lived beneath the veneers of country club smiles. Later that afternoon, Dana met Ava at the farmer's market downtown. It was a cool, crisp day, tables heavy with apples, pumpkins, and the smell of cider. The same people who once barely glanced their way now greeted them with subtle nods, quiet smiles. One vendor tucked an extra bouquet into Ava's bag for the Ridgeleys. Ava looked around, half in disbelief. "You feel that, right? People are nice all of a sudden." "They're not nice," Dana said lightly, slipping her hands into her coat pockets. "They're remembering their manners." Across the street, a pair of women paused their conversation as Dana passed. They didn't speak, just offered a small, respectful nod. She returned it, wordless but steady. It wasn't victory. It was recognition. Ava caught up to her. "You know, I've lived here almost 2 years, and this is the first time anyone's treated me like I actually belong." Dana's expression softened. "You always did. They just needed someone to adjust the lighting." They walked together past the bakery, the window filled with pies and conversation. The rhythm of the town felt subtly altered, like a room where the loudest voice had finally gone quiet. That quiet had a name: Camilla Ashford. The whispers were everywhere now, that she was taking time away, that she'd been misunderstood. But the truth was simpler. Her yoga studio had lost 2 instructors overnight, both citing ethical differences. The studio's Instagram page had gone silent, its comments section locked. Dana noticed, of course. She always noticed. They reached the lake promenade as the afternoon light thinned to gold. Ava glanced at her aunt. "You're not just invisible anymore, you know." Dana smiled faintly, watching the sunlight glint across the water. "I never was. I was watching." Ava shook her head, half awed, half uncertain. "Doesn't it feel weird? Everyone finally seeing you?" "It's not about them seeing me," Dana said. "It's about them seeing clearly." They stood there a while, side by side, the market noise drifting behind them. It wasn't triumph, Dana felt. It was inevitability, quiet and earned. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from Gwen. "Gwen. Heard about the fallout? The board's reassigning committees? Guess who's off every single one?" Dana typed back. "Efficiency looks good on her." She pocketed her phone and turned toward the road. "Come on," she said to Ava. "Let's get dinner. You've got work tomorrow." Ava frowned. "You're coming?" "For once," Dana said. "I think I can afford to be seen." The next mistake wasn't strategic. It was sloppy. The kind of slip that only happens when pride starts outweighing caution. By Monday, Camilla had reappeared. A carefully curated Instagram photo of her sipping cappuccino at the Marina Cafe, captioned, "Back to business? Rumors can rest now." It was the digital equivalent of a forced smile, but the town wasn't smiling back. Dana saw it while scrolling through her morning news brief, one brow lifting slightly. "She's pretending she's fine," Ava muttered over breakfast. "That's the first sign she isn't," Dana said. By noon, the pretense cracked. Dana's phone buzzed with a text from Leo. "Leo, you need to see this. Sent it to the wrong list. Forwarding. Now." The forwarded email loaded, a thread from Camilla's private account addressed to what she'd meant to be her inner circle. The subject line read, "Damage control and other disasters." Dana clicked. The Ridgely woman thinks she's some kind of savior. Let her have her little charity moment. She'll go back to obscurity soon enough. The board only listens because she bought her way in. Money doesn't equal class. The words were acid on screen, arrogant, careless, fatal. But the line that followed sealed it. "Honestly, Leo should thank me for keeping that place from turning into a retirement hobby farm." Leo had been CC'd accidentally, along with the entire Westport donor committee list. Over 60 addresses, PTA members, sponsors, faculty, even 2 local journalists. Dana reread it once, her mouth curving slightly. "And there it is," she murmured. Ava looked up from her laptop across the room. "What happened?" "Nothing I need to fix," Dana said. "Gravity's handling this one." By late afternoon, the town's digital grapevine was alive. The email had spread faster than the flu through a private school classroom. PTA mothers forwarded it by accident. Donor spouses screenshot and texted it in disbelief. Faculty threads at the Art Center filled with reactions that ranged from shocked to vindicated. Leo called at 3:07 p.m., his voice a mix of awe and exasperation. "Dana, this might actually be the end of her." "Then I'll send flowers," Dana replied dryly. "She's trying to claim her assistant hit reply all." "Of course she is." Leo sighed. "Sponsors are bailing already. 3 major donors pulled their commitments this afternoon. It's a full exodus." "Let them go," Dana said. "It's overdue." He hesitated. "You're not going to say anything? Not even a statement?" Dana's gaze drifted toward the window, where the lake reflected the gray sky like polished steel. "No. When someone's drowning, you don't need to push them under." That evening, Westport's social web looked different. Camilla's studio page locked comments again, but screenshots of the email still circulated. Her damage control backfired spectacularly. Brands quietly withdrew sponsorships, foundations paused collaborations, and by nightfall, her own event planning team announced an indefinite hiatus. Ava watched the chaos unfold online, torn between shock and satisfaction. "She's unraveling," she whispered. Dana closed her laptop, unbothered. "She's revealing." Camilla, for her part, was in full survival mode. At 9:01 p.m., a hastily written public apology appeared on her Facebook page, one of those carefully staged posts written in the language of crisis consultants. "I deeply regret the miscommunication that occurred today. I've always been passionate about this community." But Westport was done listening. The comment section filled faster than she could delete. Words like condescending, entitled, finally exposed, trailed in long, angry threads. Ava scrolled through them, speechless. "They're eating her alive." Dana poured herself a glass of Cabernet. "They were just waiting for permission." The next morning, the fallout became visible. Camilla's husband Grant drove their SUV alone. No chauffeur, no smile. Her yoga studio's signage was missing by afternoon. Even her usual coffee shop stop was eerily empty when she walked in. The barista who once called her by name now just said, "Next." Dana didn't celebrate. She didn't gloat. She simply kept moving. Her daily walks, her quiet errands, her slow reclamation of space. Her silence was a statement all its own. By Wednesday evening, Leo stopped by Dana's house. He looked tired but lighter somehow. "You really won't speak publicly?" he asked as she poured him coffee. "I already did," she said. "Every time I didn't." Leo exhaled, smiling faintly. "You're dangerous when you're quiet." "Only to the loud," Dana said. They sat in companionable silence, the sound of the lake against the rocks steady and rhythmic. Westport had short memories for tragedy but long memories for scandal. By the following week, Camilla Ashford was doing what she did best, pretending she still controlled the story. She reappeared on social media with a new campaign, a community renewal pledge. Her voice returned to its trademark faux inspirational tone, hashtags, soft lighting, and a self-shot video framed by lilies. "Together," she said, smiling too hard into the camera, "we can restore faith in the causes that make Westport shine." That's why I'm pledging a match donation for every dollar given to the Arts Fund this month. It was performative philanthropy, and everyone knew it. But performative could still work, if no one called her bluff. Except Dana Ridgely always called bluffs. That evening, the clip played on the muted TV in Dana's kitchen. Ava stood at the counter sorting Ellie's school permission slips, shaking her head. "She's unbelievable. After everything?" Dana poured tea into a glass mug, her expression neutral. "She's trying to rewrite the story before it dries." "She's not even embarrassed." "She's desperate," Dana corrected. "That's different." Ava exhaled, looking weary. It's exhausting to watch her still win attention. Dana set her mug down. "Then stop watching her. Let's give them something better to look at." She opened her laptop, logging into the Arts Fund portal, the same one Camilla once weaponized. She typed Ava's name in the donor field, entered a figure twice Camilla's public pledge, and clicked submit. No signature, no fanfare. The confirmation email pinged seconds later. Receipt. Donation confirmed. Amount: $200,000. Donor: Ava Ridgely. Dana smiled faintly. "There," she said. A quieter kind of statement. Ava blinked. "Wait, what did you just do?" "I moved a decimal in the right direction." "Aunt Dana, tell me you didn't." "I did." Ava pressed her palms to her face. "They're going to think it was me." Dana's tone was calm, deliberate. "Good. Let them." By morning, the committee site was updated. Across the top banner, under Featured Philanthropists of the Month, was a new name: Ava Ridgely, Community Leadership Donor. The photo they used wasn't even posed, just one snapped at the farmer's market the week before, sunlight in her hair, Ellie laughing beside her, Leo called before breakfast. You're not going to believe this. The committee's raving about Ava's donation. They're calling her a rising voice for the next generation of women in philanthropy. Ava nearly dropped her coffee. They're what? Dana hid a smile behind her mug. See? All she ever needed was a platform she didn't have to beg for. 2 days later, Ava's inbox overflowed with invitations, network luncheons, charity mixers, leadership panels. She turned most down, overwhelmed, until one subject line caught her eye. Westport Women's Leadership Forum, keynote panel invitation. Ava stared at it for a long time before whispering, "They want me to speak." Ellie, overhearing from the breakfast table, beamed. "Mom, you're finally in the picture." Ava looked up at Dana, eyes wide. "What do I even say?" "Say thank you," Dana replied simply. "Then say nothing else. Let your silence do what mine did." When the day came, the forum hall glowed with chandeliers and a restless hum of conversation. Ava sat at the center panel, polished and poised, her confidence anchored by quiet fire. She spoke briefly about integrity, about community, about doing the right thing when no one's looking. No dramatics, no self-promotion, just truth. The applause that followed was genuine, not forced. Dana watched from the back of the room, arms folded, eyes steady. Across town, Camilla watched the live stream from her laptop, the morning light cutting harshly across her face. Her phone buzzed nonstop, texts from old sponsors, reporters asking for comment, a notification from the Arts Fund tagging Ava as our new face of progress. Camilla's grip tightened around her mug until it cracked. Later that afternoon, the Westport Chronicle posted a feature, Ava Ridgely, the new voice of local philanthropy. The cover photo was radiant. Ava mid-laugh, Ellie beside her, Leo in the background clapping. Dana wasn't pictured, and she preferred it that way. Ava found the paper folded neatly on their porch when she got home. She held it up, still stunned. "I don't understand how you knew this would happen." Dana smiled without looking up from her tablet. "Because power isn't taken, Ava. It's transferred. Quietly. From those who waste it to those who earn it." Ava touched the headline again, her voice soft. "And what happens to her now?" "Camilla?" Dana closed her tablet. "She'll either learn humility or run out of credit. My bet's on the latter." The first sign was the lawn. Westport lawns weren't supposed to look tired, but Camilla's did. Uneven, pale, its once perfect hydrangeas brittle at the edges. Dana noticed it one morning on her usual walk, the November wind lifting her scarf as she slowed by Harbor Crest Lane. And then she saw it. The for sale sign. White, pristine. With a discreet gold border. Camilla would have insisted on that. But the sign's perfection only made the silence behind it louder. The curtains were drawn, the front door wreath gone. Even the glossy black SUV was missing from the driveway. Dana stopped at the edge of the sidewalk, gloved hands folded loosely before her. She didn't smile. She didn't linger. She simply looked, long enough to understand that the cracks she'd seen on a screen weeks ago had finally split wide open in real life. Her phone buzzed. "Leo. Leo. You've seen it, haven't you?" Dana. "The sign?" Leo. 6 months behind. Bank wouldn't grant another extension." Dana typed back slowly. "Dana. I told you. The truth keeps its own schedule." That afternoon, she sat in her office overlooking the lake, the same folder from months before, open beside her keyboard. She searched the property database, parcel Queer HC14, the Ashford residence, transfer pending, lien satisfied by private holding company, her private holding company. She glanced toward the doorway as Gwen appeared, arms crossed, brows raised. "Tell me I'm hallucinating. Tell me you didn't just purchase Camilla Ashford's waterfront showpiece through Ridgely Acquisitions." Dana's tone was soft, almost casual. Technically, the firm did. Gwen dropped into the chair across from her. Dana, that house is going to be headline gossip for months. You can't honestly want that mess on your portfolio. I don't, Dana said, tapping the folder closed. I want it off hers. Gwen blinked. You're buying her house to help her? No, Dana said. To help the town remember who actually builds things here. We'll flip it to the local housing organization, the one she ignored for years while fundraising for yoga retreats. Gwen let out a low whistle. You're turning the Queen's Castle into affordable housing. Dana's eyes flicked up, calm and unyielding. Let's call it rebalancing the market. By Friday, the paperwork was finalized, quietly, through escrow channels. The press never knew. The deed was transferred, the closing documents signed by a trustee no one would trace. When Dana left the office that evening, she passed the property once more. Moving trucks lined the curb. Men carried out furniture wrapped in gray blankets. The sky was low and pale, the kind of Connecticut winter dusk that made everything look washed of color. Camilla stood on the porch, her hair pulled back, dressed in expensive athleisure that didn't hide the exhaustion. Her voice carried, brittle and breaking. Be careful with that mirror, it's Italian. Grant was nowhere in sight. Dana stayed across the street, unseen behind her sunglasses. She watched a framed photo slip from one mover's grip and shatter against the driveway. Camilla flinched but said nothing. She just stared down at it, jaw tightening, then turned and disappeared inside. Dana's phone buzzed again. Leo. Leo. Word is, she's moving into one of those rentals off Bayview. 2 bedrooms. No yard. Dana. Fitting. Easier to manage her reflection that way. She pocketed the phone and kept walking, the cold air biting at her cheeks. That night, Gwen called again. You're sure about the transfer? No one's going to know it was you? I'm sure, Dana said. It's not about ownership. It's about correction. You're scary when you sound that calm. I'm not calm, Dana replied. I'm finished. For the first time in months, her house felt lighter, like the weight of a long-kept promise had lifted. The lake outside glimmered with early frost, each ripple catching the reflection of her window's light. Ava joined her at the balcony, hands stuffed in her sweater pockets. You've been quiet all night. Did something happen? Dana glanced toward the dark water. Just an address change. Ava frowned. For who? Dana's smile was small, deliberate. For someone who needed to downsize. The apology arrived on a Sunday morning. Dana was pruning the hydrangeas along her back patio, the air sharp with the scent of salt from the lake. She set her pruning shears aside to check her phone, expecting an update from Leo, or maybe Ellie's latest piano recital video. But it wasn't either of them. It was Camilla. Camilla Ashford. Dana. I don't even know where to start. I've made mistakes. Too many. I wasn't fair to you. Or anyone, really. The past few months have been brutal, and I know I earned most of it. You didn't deserve what I said or how I treated you. You were trying to help this community. I was trying to own it. I'm sorry. The message kept going. Paragraphs upon paragraphs of half confession, half justification, every sentence tangled between contrition and pride. The final line read, I'd like to meet, to apologize properly, maybe start over. Dana read it twice. Then once more, slower. She didn't reply. Instead, she took a screenshot. Saved it in her receipts folder, one she'd created months ago, and archived the thread. The next message came 10 minutes later. Did you see my text? Dana locked her phone, set it face down on the counter, then went back to trimming the hydrangeas. That same afternoon, Ellie bounded into the kitchen, all freckles and enthusiasm. Auntie Dana, Mom said I can ask you something. Dana wiped her hands on a towel. That sounds serious. It is, Ellie said solemnly. My school's having a fundraiser next month, like a carnival thing, with food and raffles and stuff. We need sponsors for the new music room. I told them you're really good at helping places stay open. Ava appeared in the doorway, embarrassed but smiling. I swear I didn't put her up to that. Dana's expression softened. The music room, I think we can do better than raffles. 2 weeks later, the fundraiser filled the Westport High Auditorium. Balloons, lights, a jazz band made up of students. The community buzzed, cameras flashing, teachers laughing. Dana stood at the edge of the stage, understated as always, until the principal announced the evening's keynote sponsor, a tremendous supporter of arts, education, and quiet generosity, Ms. Dana Ridgely. The applause that followed wasn't polite. It was thunderous. A standing ovation that rippled across the room. Ava blinked, stunned. Ellie whooped loud enough for everyone to hear. Dana approached the podium, her tailored navy dress catching the light. She didn't speak long, just long enough for the room to understand who she was. I've lived long enough to know the best investments don't go into walls, she said. They go into people. So tonight's funds will double, on behalf of a family that believed in the arts long before I ever moved home. She nodded toward Ava and Ellie. The applause swelled again, genuine and warm. From the back of the auditorium, a figure stood in the shadows. Camilla. Her coat still buttoned, her expression hollow, eyes glistening in the reflected stage light. She clutched her phone in one hand, the same phone she'd used to type out her apology, and watched as the crowd stood for the woman she once dismissed as invisible. Ava joined Dana at the side of the stage, beaming. They loved you, she said, and you didn't even tell them about all the other donations. I didn't have to, Dana said softly. The right people already know. Later that night, after the crowd dispersed, Leo approached with a small envelope in hand. You've created a problem for me, he said. Dana arched a brow. That sounds like your favorite kind of problem. He smiled. It is. I just offered Ava a position, event coordinator at my office. She said she'll think about it, but I'd prefer if you nudged her. Dana glanced toward her niece, who was laughing with Ellie near the punch table, her posture lighter than it had been in years. I don't think she needs nudging. I think she's finally ready to lead. As the janitor began dimming the lights, Dana gathered her coat. The applause still echoed faintly in her ears, not because of pride, but because of what it represented. The reclamation of space, the restoration of balance. Across the room, Camilla slipped out a side exit, unnoticed by the crowd. Only Dana saw her go. Their eyes met for half a heartbeat, long enough for one truth to pass between them. Camilla had written an apology. Dana had written history. The email went out on a Tuesday morning, brief, bloodless, and terminal. Subject: Committee restructure, effective immediately. As of this week, Camilla Ashford will no longer serve on the boards of the Westport Arts Foundation, the Harbor Philanthropy Council, or the Community Wellness Alliance. We thank her for her prior contributions and wish her well in her future endeavors. No one in Westport said her name aloud that week, but the silence around it was deafening. By Thursday, her name was scrubbed from event websites, press releases, and invitation lists. It was as if she'd been cut from the town's social fabric with surgical precision. No announcement, no ceremony, just gone. Dana saw it first on the Arts Fund homepage. Leadership Board 2025. 12 names, cleanly alphabetized, with Ava Ridgely's now listed under Community Events Coordinator. A faint smile touched Dana's lips as she scrolled. She didn't gloat. She simply closed the laptop and reached for her coffee. It's done, she murmured. Ava entered the kitchen, still half asleep, holding Ellie's forgotten lunch bag. What's done? Housekeeping? Dana said. Digital this time. Later that evening, the Westport Gala for Family Wellness took place at the Grandview Hotel Ballroom, a smaller event than usual, but one that mattered more. Dana attended in understated black silk, Ava beside her in an elegant navy jumpsuit. The crowd greeted them with warmth that used to be reserved for Camilla, soft, curious smiles, a kind of reverence for the woman who had somehow become Westport's quiet center of gravity. They took their seats as the lights dimmed and the dinner began. Conversations flickered like candle flames, small bursts of gossip and laughter. But the missing presence in the room was its own ghost. Gwen slid into the chair beside Dana halfway through the entree, lowering her voice. "You noticed the empty seats at table 1? Dana didn't look. "I noticed the tablecloth. Still pressed, still waiting." "Grant's here," Gwen said, glancing toward the bar. "But she's not. They say she tried to attend and was told her tickets were void." Ava's fork froze halfway to her mouth. "They barred her?" "They didn't need to," Dana said. "The system did it for them." Gwen exhaled a soft whistle. "She looks like a ghost in her own town." Dana's gaze followed the room's golden light as it moved across sequined gowns and polite laughter. "That's because she was only ever costume," she said quietly. Ava turned toward her, the words sinking in. "You really think she'll disappear?" "Not disappear," Dana replied. "She'll fade, same as any illusion once the lights go out." The evening carried on. Leo joined them midway through dessert, handing Ava a crisp folder. "For you," he said. Ava blinked. "What is it?" "The event schedule for next quarter," he said. "Full access. You're officially heading community coordination. Congratulations." Ava's eyes widened. "Wait. Me?" "You earned it," Leo said, grinning. "Westport needed new blood, and you've got Ridgely steel in your veins." Dana's lips curved faintly. "She does." Ava stared down at the folder, overwhelmed. "I don't even know what to say." "Say yes," Gwen muttered. Yes, of course." Leo raised his glass toward Dana. "You said it months ago. Correction, not revenge. Looks like both worked." Dana met his toast but didn't clink. "Correction's ongoing," she said softly. As applause filled the room for the evening's charity total, Dana's phone buzzed on the table. A new message from an unknown number. "Unknown. You think you've won. You don't know what's coming." She didn't react immediately. She just turned her phone face down, sliding it beneath her clutch. Ava noticed the movement. "Something wrong?" Dana smiled, her expression unreadable. "Just noise." They rose as the music swelled and guests moved toward the dance floor. Outside the ballroom windows, snow began to fall. Light, soundless, inevitable. It started as so many scandals did in Westport, with numbers that didn't add up. Gwen Hastings found them first, buried in a spreadsheet she'd been asked to audit for a client's donation report. A local women's wellness initiative, supposedly one of Camilla Ashford's last remaining personal projects. Gwen called Dana at 9:30 on a Thursday morning. "You've got a minute?" Dana was sorting through old donation receipts at her kitchen counter, the winter light cutting across the marble. "Always," she said. "You're going to love this one," Gwen replied. "Remember that fundraiser Camilla ran back in September? The one with the ridiculous lavender dress code?" "The one where she raised $250,000 for wellness outreach," Dana said flatly. "Yes. Why?" "Because," Gwen said, "only about 30,000 of that actually reached the foundation. The rest went somewhere else." Dana's eyebrow lifted. "Where?" "Try her Venmo history, a stylist fee, 2 jewelry invoices, and, get this, a $12,000 payment labeled retreat planning." The retreat never happened. Dana was silent for a long beat. "You're sure?" Gwen laughed without humor. "I cross-checked everything twice. She's been laundering image, not money, but that's enough." Dana reached for her folder, the one labeled Ashford. Active. Send me the files. By afternoon, she had them all. The payment records, event ledgers, vendor statements, each transaction quietly damning. Dana organized them into tidy stacks: digital, physical, chronological. Then she drafted a simple email. To Board President, Westport Arts Foundation, CC, Legal Counsel, Westport Charitable Oversight Committee. Subject: Irregularities in charitable disbursements attached. Documentation for your review. I trust you'll know what to do. Dana Ridgely. She hit send, then closed her laptop. By the weekend, the fallout began. Leo called Saturday morning. You saw the papers? I don't read scandal, Dana said, stirring her coffee. You don't need to. It's everywhere. Someone leaked her Venmo screenshots, payments to a stylist, a boutique, even her yoga instructor. Half the donors from that event are demanding refunds. Who leaked them? Leo hesitated. No one's sure, but the Oversight Committee confirmed your documents lined up with their findings. They're opening a full inquiry. Dana's tone stayed even. Integrity is quiet, Leo. So are consequences. He let out a slow laugh. You always sound like you're quoting scripture when you say things like that. Maybe I am, she said, smiling faintly. Just a different kind. By Monday, Camilla's name had vanished again, but this time not from websites, from contracts, from sponsor lists, from every upcoming event statewide. The dominoes fell quickly once brands saw the word misappropriation. Ava read the headlines at breakfast, her brow furrowed. They're blacklisting her from every charity network in Connecticut. Dana took a sip of tea. Good. She wanted to build an empire. She should understand what happens when the foundation's rotten. Across town, the Ashford home, now vacant and in renovation for the housing initiative, made the news again. Only this time, it wasn't about philanthropy. Grant Ashford, Gwen said over the phone that afternoon, just filed for legal separation, cited financial misconduct and reputational damage. Dana's voice didn't waver. He's protecting what's left of his name. Or what's left of hers, Gwen muttered. You know what I like most about this? I can't imagine. She built her whole life on public performance, and now the whole town's watching her in silence. No one's rushing to defend her. It's almost poetic. Dana looked out at the lake, where the ice had begun to crust along the edges. Poetry is truth with rhythm, she said. She provided both. That evening, Dana attended a small donor dinner at Leo's office. Ava was there too, her first event in an official capacity. The mood was light, subdued, confident. Westport had finally turned its gaze toward the people doing the work, rather than the ones taking the credit. After dessert, Leo raised a toast. To transparency, to correction, and to the people who remember that giving quietly still changes the loudest rooms. Every head turned toward Dana. She inclined hers slightly. It's never about the volume, she said. It's about the echo. The night air over the marina carried the faint scent of lilacs and sea salt, the first breath of spring cutting through the last traces of winter. The Westport Arts Foundation's annual spring gala shimmered beneath the lights of the newly restored Lakeside Pavilion, a building that, months ago, would have borne Camilla Ashford's name. Now, the brass plaque at the entrance read simply, "The Ridgely Center for Arts and Education." Dana arrived quietly, as always, tailored charcoal dress, diamond studs, her hair swept into an elegant knot. Ava and Ellie followed close behind, both radiant under the glass canopy that reflected strings of white lights. The town was alive with chatter. Photographers hovered near the velvet ropes. Guests in tuxedos laughed beneath the chandeliers. But just beyond the curb, a black sedan idled. Inside it, Camilla Ashford sat alone. She'd been there nearly 20 minutes, watching the arrivals. Her reflection looked foreign in the tinted window. Tired, pale, edges blurred by months of fallout. But habit won over humiliation. She adjusted her lipstick, inhaled deeply, and stepped out. The whispers started before her heels even touched the pavement. Is that... She wouldn't dare. She's not on the list. Camilla walked toward the entrance anyway, head high, dress impeccable. She still knew how to move like she belonged. The security guard at the door, a man in a black suit with an earpiece, stepped forward politely. "Good evening, ma'am. May I see your invitation?" She smiled with old reflexes, producing a folded printout. "Camilla Ashford. You'll find me on the honorary list." He scanned the page, his professionalism unwavering. Then he looked up. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Ashford. You're not listed under any category." "That's impossible," she said, the laugh brittle. "I've attended this event for 15 years. He shook his head. "Per the new board policy, only verified ticket holders and board-approved guests are allowed entry. If you'd like, I can contact—" "Don't bother," Camilla snapped, color rising in her cheeks. "I know exactly who wrote that policy." From inside the glass doors, Dana caught the commotion, a ripple of unease at the entrance. She glanced toward Leo, who stood nearby in his tuxedo, scanning the crowd. "Let me," Dana murmured. The doors parted, releasing a soft wave of violin music and candlelight. Dana stepped into the crisp night air, every movement composed, deliberate. Camilla froze. For a heartbeat, neither woman spoke. The distance between them was only a few feet, yet it felt like years. "Good evening," Dana said evenly. Camilla's throat tightened. "You had me removed from the list." "I didn't," Dana said. "The board did. After reviewing the eligibility requirements." Camilla's voice cracked. "You think this town belongs to you now?" "No," Dana said softly. "It belongs to the people who stopped pretending." Behind her, laughter floated from the ballroom, the sound of a world that had moved on. A flash of light flickered across the glass. Ava stepping up to the podium inside, accepting a bouquet as the evening's event coordinator. The audience clapped. Dana turned slightly, her face illuminated by the reflection. "You built everything on the surface, Camilla," Dana said quietly. "I built from the foundation." Camilla's breath hitched. "You've taken everything." Dana's gaze didn't waver. "I corrected what you borrowed." The guard shifted uncomfortably, glancing between them. "Ms. Ridgely, is everything all right?" "Perfectly," Dana said. "Mrs. Ashford was just leaving." Camilla's hands trembled around her clutch. For a moment she looked as though she might argue, but the weight of the stairs from inside was too much. She turned away, retreating to the sidewalk as the doors closed behind Dana. Inside, the lights dimmed for the evening's main program. The stage curtains opened to reveal a small grand piano at center stage. Ellie, dressed in pale blue, sat poised with her hands over the keys. "Tonight," the announcer said, "our youngest performer dedicates this piece to her Aunt Dana Ridgely, for her belief that every note deserves to be heard." The first notes of Claire de Lune filled the hall, soft, rippling, haunting. Dana felt the sound bloom in her chest, delicate and infinite. Leo leaned toward her, his voice low. "This," he said, nodding toward the stage, "is what legacy looks like." Ava's eyes shimmered in the low light. Ellie played with the calm grace of someone who didn't just know the music. She felt it. The audience sat spellbound, listening to the song that seemed to wash the entire room clean. Outside, through the glass walls of the pavilion, Camilla stood beneath the street lamp, her breath visible in the cool night air. She could hear the music faintly, muffled, distant, unreachable. She wrapped her coat tighter and stared through the glass as Ellie's final note lingered in the air. Inside, the crowd rose in applause, a wave of sound she would never be part of again. Camilla's reflection stared back at her. Alone, outside, watching a world that had erased her. The morning of the opening felt different. still, expectant, the kind of quiet that precedes a change no one can undo. The new Ridgely Center for Arts and Education stood gleaming by the lakeshore, glass walls reflecting the spring sunlight, its architecture a blend of precision and grace. The town gathered outside the entrance, the crowd murmuring in the soft hum of pride. Reporters adjusted camera lenses. Donors clasped champagne flutes. The scent of fresh-cut ribbon, silk, and promise hung in the air. Dana stood at the front, scissors poised in her hand. Beside her, Ava smiled nervously, her team assembled behind her. Young, eager, ready. Ready? Ava whispered. Dana nodded once. Always. The flashbulbs went off as she cut the ribbon. Applause rolled over them like surf, steady, warm, earned. Dana didn't flinch or grandstand. She simply handed the scissors to Ava, letting her niece take the next photo, the next wave of recognition. Inside, sunlight spilled through the vaulted windows onto polished floors and murals from local students. The air carried the faintest trace of paint and cedar from the new studios. Leo walked alongside Dana, gesturing toward the hallways as they passed plaques engraved with donor names, each line honest this time, each name belonging where it should. At the end of the corridor, they reached what had once been the disused West Wing, a small studio room repurposed for youth classes. Through the glass panel, Dana paused. Ellie sat at the piano, her small hands guiding a group of children through simple scales. The kids giggled when they missed notes. Ellie smiled, patient and encouraging. Dana watched silently, her reflection hovering ghost-like in the glass behind her grandniece's bright form. She insisted on teaching Saturdays, Ava said softly behind her. Says the room feels like it remembers her performance. Dana smiled. It does. From the main hall came the sound of chatter and new beginnings, donors touring rooms, students exploring spaces, the hum of a community made whole again. Gwen found them near the central staircase, phone in hand. You'll want to see this, she said, tilting the screen toward Dana. Camilla's social accounts, Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn, were empty. Deactivated. No posts, no trace. The glossy life she'd curated for years had gone silent overnight. Is she gone? Gwen asked. Half whisper, half awe. Dana looked through the glass wall at the lake beyond. The water was calm, the sunlight fractured in ripples, as if the world itself had exhaled. She left, Dana said. The moment I arrived. Gwen tilted her head. You really don't believe she'll try to come back? Dana's tone was even, certain. You can't return to a place that moved on without you. Ava approached with Ellie in tow, her cheeks flushed from the energy of the day. Mom, Aunt Dana, come take a photo with us. Ellie called, waving from across the atrium. Leo grinned. You heard the kid. They gathered near the mural, a swirl of color painted by local artists, depicting the lake, the town, and a quiet woman holding out her hand to a young girl at a piano. Dana recognized herself instantly, even though no one had said it aloud. For a moment she let herself breathe it in, the sound of laughter, the rustle of programs, the feeling of legacy settling, not as a crown, but as a foundation. The applause began again when Ellie finished her short recital for the donors, her small voice echoing through the loudspeakers. This one's for Aunt Dana, she said shyly. She taught me that quiet people can still change everything. The audience clapped, and Dana felt a strange warmth rise in her chest, not pride, but something gentler. Continuity. The ballroom at the Grandview glowed softer than it had in years. Gold light on glass, low music threaded through the hum of conversation. It wasn't the size of the event that made it matter this time. It was the quiet, the absence of spectacle, the presence of substance. Dana Ridgely sat at the edge of table 7, the one nearest the window overlooking the lake. She wore silver instead of black tonight, the fabric catching the light every time she lifted her glass. She wasn't there to make a statement. She was there to mark an ending. Around her, the people who had once whispered now leaned in when she spoke. Ava, poised and certain, moved easily among guests, her badge reading Event Director, Ridgely Center for Arts and Education. Leo chatted with donors near the stage, his laugh genuine for the first time in months. Gwen waved from the bar, her grin wide, triumphant. It was a night of celebration, not of vengeance, but of arrival. The evening's speeches began. Ava approached the podium, her heels clicking in even rhythm. The crowd hushed. "I could stand here and tell you about budgets and attendance," she began, "but tonight isn't about numbers. It's about a person who taught me that the best kind of power doesn't announce itself. It simply acts." Her eyes found Dana across the room. "When we started this journey, I was just trying to fit in. Dana showed me what it means to belong. Not because someone lets you in, but because you decide to stay anyway. So if I can ask you to raise a glass, it's to her. My aunt. My mentor. The woman who built the table we're sitting at. Literally and figuratively." The applause was warm, unhurried, threaded with respect. Glasses lifted all around. Leo stepped up beside Ava, his voice carrying with practiced ease. "She won't like me saying this, but we'd be nothing without her. Every project, every grant, every quiet check. She was the reason this place didn't fall apart before it ever stood." Gwen joined him, raising her own glass. "To the woman who was always there," she said, even when people pretended she wasn't. All eyes turned to Dana. She rose slowly, setting her napkin aside. "You're giving me far too much credit," she said, her voice smooth, steady, touched with humor. "I just have an old habit of fixing the leaks before anyone else notices the rain." Laughter rippled through the tables. Ava smiled, proud and teary. Dana lifted her own glass then, her tone turning dry. "They tried to erase me from the guest list," she said. "So, I just bought the table." The room erupted. Laughter, applause, the satisfying clink of crystal. It wasn't a boast. It was an acknowledgement, a full-circle confession wrapped in grace. Leo leaned toward her as the crowd settled again. "You know," he murmured, "I think she, wherever she is, finally understands what you meant." Dana's gaze drifted toward the window. Outside, across the lake, the lights of the town reflected in the still water. Each one steady, distinct, untouchable. "Maybe," she said softly, but that was never the point. Ava joined her, slipping an arm around her shoulders. "You did it, Aunt Dana." "No," Dana replied, watching Ellie twirl with other children near the bandstand. "We did." The orchestra shifted to a softer tune, something lilting and familiar. Gwen and Leo found seats beside her again, their laughter mixing with the easy rhythm of the night. Dana leaned back, her glass catching the light. The air in the room shimmered with the comfort of something earned, not claimed. When the MC announced the final toast, everyone turned toward Dana once more. Cameras flashed, but this time not to capture scandal, to capture permanence. And as the applause rose again, Dana's thoughts drifted briefly to that first night months ago, the one that started it all. The whisper, the humiliation, the stillness she'd turned into momentum. She could still hear it. "You don't belong." She smiled to herself, calm and sure. "At the party she said I didn't belong," Dana murmured, her eyes on the glowing chandelier overhead. "The host thanked me for sponsoring it." The orchestra swelled, the lights dimmed, and the screen behind her lit with a single inscription in gold: "In gratitude to Dana Ridgely, for building foundations that last." And for once, Dana didn't look away.